Good. Live pre-race final race weekend of 2024 Formula One seasons here, but the tempers and the feud are red hot, could carry over to 2025. Isha Azim from Racing with Isha joins me for Formula One coverage of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. A big thank you to our Patreon investors, Colin the Show, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for investing in the Grid Network each and every month. And of course, Isha, let's get right into it. The big news, the big drama, the development after Qatar, Max Verstappen feud with George Russell, and the explosive development since it all started in qualifying in Qatar. Russell protested Verstappen slowing too much on the cooldown lap. This resulted in a one-position grid penalty for Max Verstappen, calling out George Russell, in which Verstappen said, "I've lost all respect for him." Russell later claimed that Verstappen was mad and said he would, quote, put him in the wall. There was an expletive word, some cursing in there. We wouldn't say that, but Verstappen, now he's saying he has no regrets for what he said at all. This is just so out of F1's. Well, we see traditionally, we've seen this in NASCAR, Isha, but not here. Do you believe one of the drivers is in the wrong, or do both drivers have a valid point in this situation?
Well, as Lando said, this is quite an amusing situation, and I'm sure Netflix is having the time of their lives, recording all of this for the next season of Drive to Survive. But, um, you know, as the saying goes, there's two sides to a coin. I think that there are things that both drivers have said or done, and it's definitely led to the escalation of this. But as we also know, Max Verstappen isn't the cleanest driver on the grid, and he certainly does say things or he does things that he often shouldn't. So I think that he is in the wrong, but then I think also George Russell has definitely caused this problem to escalate too. So I think it's a problem on both sides, but the claims that Russell has made, they are a bit serious of what Max has said and done, but I don't think it's as cut and dry as we are seeing it, and plus, it's strange because the situation didn't just happen, over the course of, like, one day. It took them a few days to put out all of their claims, like, George Russell had a few days to think about what he was gonna say, and then he said the thing about, the explicit comment he made about Max, or what he said. So I think it's a bit of a, complicated situation, and I don't think that us as viewers or as Formula One enthusiasts, are, gonna get the full story of what happened because I definitely think that, there's things that they're probably not saying about what actually happened. But, to come back to the question, I think both drivers, may have some valid points, and I think they both are in the wrong.
Yeah, it seems they both have some valid points, but both of them, boy, this is just really exploding in a level I have not seen at F1. They've been following this sport for a long time. The closest I could say is maybe Hamilton versus Verstappen in 2021 when those two were really going at it leading up to the dramatic Abu Dhabi finale. And just like that year, this has spilled over with the team managers. Toto Wolff, he accompanied George Russell in that explosive press conference, and he called Christian Horner a terrier dog after claiming that Russell was hysterical defending his drivers, and he was not hysterical. Christian Horner claims he would rather be that terrier dog, unafraid of the big dogs, and doesn't want to be a wolf. Mercedes versus Red Bull. People remember 2021 between these two teams. Is this good to see a feud, a rivalry like this for the fans' interest in this sport?
Well, I think situations like this are always interesting because, it gives fans more of a, I guess, insider look at the drivers and their personalities. And it obviously does increase, I guess, fans wanting to watch the races and wanting to see if more problems develop between the drivers. So I think it's good for fan interest as long as it doesn't cause issues on the track that can compromise the safety of the drivers. Because if they're feuding off track, then on track that could result in one of the drivers potentially trying to target the other driver, and that could result in dangerous situations. So as long as that's not happening on track, I think we'll be okay. And I think it's things like this from time to time are okay to happen for, fans and, their interest.
I just think this is just something that it's gonna have the headlines talking about it throughout the off season. I'm just really curious if anything's going to happen on the track between these two. Granted, Mercedes, not exactly 100% the fastest up there with Red Bull, but we'll see what happens. Because if those two, if this momentum carries over and somehow Mercedes has that better car to be up there, oh man, this could be a lot of fun seeing those two. And the track action, let's get back to it. We haven't talked about it at all. Free practice one, Leclerc, Norris, and Hamilton were the top three. Practice two, Norris, Piastri, and Hulkenberg, the top three. And then Russell, he was faster than Max Verstappen in the second practice. Of course, Max Verstappen did not participate in the first practice, and then qualifying. McLaren sweeps that front row, and they look poised to take this championship, Isha. The big surprise, again, Nico Hulkenberg, with 15 seconds left in qualifying, he was on the pole. I'm not going to lie, I was sort of cheering. I would love to see this happen, a Nico Hulkenberg pole, but he falls down to fourth. Could Hulkenberg, who is starting ahead of Max Verstappen, as well as some of the other regular names, including Charles Leclerc, who's further back, Lewis Hamilton, could there be a concern that he started up so far to the front, entering turn one, considering Haas has really never been up front, especially at the start?
Yeah, I think it's certainly an interesting situation, and it could be a little bit concerning for some of the drivers, but I don't think it's going to cause too much of a problem for them. Obviously, none of the drivers are probably very used to seeing a Haas that high up, especially in front of Max. But I don't think it's going to cause much of an issue. I think that the drivers are mostly going to be focused on their own race, especially going to turn one, because we know that McLaren's got the front row lockout. And then we have Max in fifth. We've got the Haas in fourth. So I think it's just going to be every driver just focusing on their own run into that first turn, because it is the last race of the season. So all the drivers want to finish up as high as possible. And I don't think Hulkenberg's going to be that big of a problem for them to deal with.
Hulkenberg is going to be, he has the experience as a driver. I think, as he's said, it won't be too much. If this was a rookie, like if somehow Dohan and the Alpine was up there, just trying to be a little bit more nervous, but overall feeling good. Comment in the chat room. Of course, as we all know, there is a Formula E race going on right now. The Casa has gained a place up to fourth place. Pick a winner, and of course, that's the first pick a winner race for 2025, because the Formula E season just getting started for next year. Their next race will be in January. Now, one of the big things, we haven't done this in quite some time, Isha, a lightning round. We, of course, been having a little bit of busy year, but let's go ahead and get started, because we got quite a few good questions and drivers to talk about on the starting grid. So with the lightning round, here we go. Race since Brazil. Will he finish in or out of the points, or crash out?
Looking at his streak, things don't look good, but it is the last race of the season. So I'm going to be hopeful and optimistic, and I'm going to say that he is going to finish out of the points, but he will not crash.
I'm going to say out of the points as well. Won't crash out. I think any potential chance of a seat next year also may be gone. With rumors of Perez out, we know Lawson, Yuki Tsunoda could be in that seat. Who do you think will finish ahead out of those two?
I think Yuki Tsunoda is going to finish ahead of Lawson.
I think Yuki as well too, and I think he has more experience on this track that's going to pay off for him. Kevin Magnussen was 8th fastest in both practice sessions, but qualified 15th. Will he finish in the points in his final race with Haas?
A bit of a tricky question. Not sure. I'm going to say yes. I think he will be able to finish in the points.
We'll see if he finishes in the points. I'm thinking if Bottas and Alonso drop out of the top 10, yes, he will, but it's going to be a really hard road for him. That leads up to Valtteri Bottas, qualified 9th. Best qualifying effort of the year. Sauber just scored points this last race. Can he finish in the points to make both drivers point finishers this year?
I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna see Valtteri, be able to score any points tomorrow.
I think so too. I think the Sauber effort was good, but it's going to come up short. And speaking about coming up short, Fernando Alonso is starting eighth, but Aston Martin has been struggling this last second half of the season. Can he finish in the top 10?
It's quite unfortunate for Fernando Alonso being in that Aston Martin with the way they're struggling right now, but, I similar to the previous answer, I don't think he's gonna finish in the top 10.
Yeah, I'm thinking Fernando Alonso outside the top 10. If anything, they're looking forward to 2025. Now, of course, we do want to give a temp because we've had Mara scheduled to be on the program. A little bit of technical difficulties. We'll try to see if we could get audio. Mara Piacentino, are you able to hear us? And can we hear you? Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it, but we encourage everyone, especially on Twitter, X, follow Mara for all Formula One content. And of course, one of the big things, Formula One season's coming to an end. We have a great championship battle for the constructors, Isha. McLaren versus Ferrari in the World Constructors Championship. This track, a lot of people said it was leaning towards McLaren as we were entering the weekend. Now it's pretty obvious they're in the front row. And then Ferrari, you got Carlos Sainz in the top 10. But Charles Leclerc, lap time deleted. He went over the white line and he was out in Q2. So he's going to have to make some work happen. You got Sainz up there. The McLaren drivers, front row, great. We saw the team orders this last race weekend, the sprint race. I assume now it's just straightforward, no team orders. McLaren just let them race. But do you think McLaren has a smooth route to the Constructors' Championship?
Yes, I think so. I think before we came into this weekend, I thought that there would be a bit of more of a fight between McLaren and Ferrari, but with the way this weekend has gone so far, it's very obvious that this track favors McLaren. They have been at the top of the charts, during the practice sessions, and now during quali, they got a front row lockout. So, I think that McLaren does have a smooth route. We know that Carlos Sainz will be starting in the top 10, but with Charles Leclerc so far back, it's going to be very difficult for them to make up the points that they need, to get ahead of McLaren, especially given how fast the McLaren is on this track in Abu Dhabi. So I think that McLaren's got a smooth track to the win.
I think it's pretty straightforward for McLaren as well, too. Let the two drivers race. Maybe they'll say hold your positions depending on what's going on behind them. But I think overall, McLaren just let them go. They're going to race each other. But I think they're both smart enough to get the point, finish potentially. I'm predicting a McLaren, two of them in the podium, unless something goes horribly wrong. And of course, one thing I feel like might be going horribly wrong is Alpine's strategy. They're barely holding on to sixth place in the Constructor Championship. They're just ahead of the Haas V carb. But then after Qatar, where we saw Esteban Ocon do less than one lap because of that first lap crash, it was announced he was going to be out of the seat. Jack Doohan is in the car this weekend. Of course, he's going to be racing next year for Alpine. We've heard there's a little bit of ensuring that we get Esteban Ocon into the Haas for the seat testing. But here's the thing. Doohan, starting 20th, not a good qualifying effort. You got Nico Hulkenberg in fourth place. Pierre Gasly in sixth place. He's going to do everything he can to keep the Alpine team sixth in the championship. And Yuki Tsunoda in 11. So, will Alpine leave with a sixth place in the constructors or someone else? And was this a big mistake to let Ocon go?
Yeah, I don't think Alpine's gonna leave with 6th place. I'm looking at the constructor standings right now. Alpine's in 6th with 59 points, and Haas is in 7th with 54. So it's only a 5-point difference. And Alpine's second driver, Jack Doohan, they've brought in. I don't I don't think he's definitely not gonna be able to score any points. He's starting in last place. And I think that on Alpine's part, it was a bit of a mistake to bring him in like this, last minute. If they wanted to bring him in this race, I think that they could have done it a little bit earlier so that he would have had enough experience to be able to score points by Abu Dhabi. But I think that this was a mistake on Alpine's part to get rid of Esteban Ocon so late in the season. I mean, it's only one race, um, and so I think that Haas is going to be able to score more points and get ahead of Alpine, and then finish in sixth place.
Sixth place finish, that'll be really great, especially what the team has been through. Nico Hulkenberg, what an effort by him this year. Comes back with Haas doing all this. Kevin Magnussen, okay, there was a controversy with his penalty, missing a race and everything, but overall, a great effort by that team. We're going to try again, once again, to see if we can connect with Mara Piacentino. Mara, are you able to hear us? I don't know if it'll work. Unfortunately, the technology gremlins just not cooperating with us today. And of course, one of those deals, but we encourage everyone be sure to follow Mara on Twitter, and definitely we'll be seeing her again for more Formula One action in 2025. Already crazy, you should think that 2024 is coming to an end. This was the longest season, 24 races for Formula One in their history. A lot of moments we're going to be remembering. This is going to be also remembered as Lewis Hamilton's final year with Mercedes. Before the season started, we had the big breaking news that he was leaving to Ferrari. We were all on there for a special program. This is his last time we'll see Lewis Hamilton with Team Mercedes as he goes with Ferrari next year. Next year will be the first time he's driving in Formula One with a car not with a Mercedes power unit. McLaren was Mercedes. Mercedes, of course, Mercedes. But he is starting 18th in this race. Toto Wolff said the team made a mistake. They let him down. It was clear they have better pace. We saw that in practice earlier. At the end of this era for Lewis Hamilton, for Mercedes, what will you remember the most?
Oh, tough question, Joe. But before I answer that, I just like to say, this season has been so insane. I saw a video earlier, where an interviewer was asking all the Formula One drivers one word to describe the season, and I think this season cannot be described in one word because it has been so full of drama and of um, happy moments, victories for drivers, and then also sad moments. Drivers leaving the team halfway through the season. It's just been, from the start, but even before the season started, from silly season, all the drama we had surrounding Red Bull, and then everything that's followed. It's just been an insane season, very long and very full of, it's just been a roller coaster of emotions. But to come back to the question, it's a very difficult question to answer for a driver like Lewis Hamilton, who has had a legendary career so far. Even before he joined Mercedes, he was already a champion, and it's tough to pick one memory that I will remember the most. But in honor of his last year with Mercedes, I'll pick something from this year actually. I was thinking of different, moments this past year, and I remembered the British Grand Prix that he won, and it was a big deal because it was after about, I think, I have this written down, 945 days that he had gone winless, and I think it was about like 56 races that he hadn't won in. So it was a really big moment, and it was, I think, the biggest moment from this season that stands out to me for Hamilton because he hadn't won in 945 days. It was sort of looking like maybe the downfall of his career, but now he had that win, and now he's signing with Ferrari, and hopefully it'll be a new chapter for him. So I'm just really, really excited to see what he does with Ferrari next season, and I hope that we can see another championship win from him.
Great memory. That was a huge moment this year. Very popular, of course, win for Lewis Hamilton. One memory that's going to stand out for me with Lewis Hamilton and his era being with Mercedes engines is actually going to come from his rookie season, and that was his win in the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, of course, Formula One, we know the drivers have always come here, a lot of funding, a lot of sponsorship, and Lewis Hamilton's story of getting to Formula One, the sacrifices his dad did to get here, putting up so much money, working multiple jobs. Lewis Hamilton, a rookie too. Fernando Alonso, the two-time defending Formula One champion, who had just joined McLaren. Looking strong all season, podium finishes, holding it up. And I remember thinking then, like, can he really race against Fernando Alonso for the championship in his rookie year? Let's see. Canadian Grand Prix, he takes the win. And this made news, even at the news outlets that normally don't cover, because everybody was saying, youngest race winner, look at what he's did, look where he came from. Of course, race a big deal for everyone to follow him. And that, I think, got a lot of people, okay, let's see what Lewis Hamilton can do. And it led up to where he just made one too many mistakes to claim a potential championship, but he really brought that fight to Fernando Alonso. Really started a feud with Fernando Alonso that lasted a long time. But this is Formula One racing. Who's your number one opponent? Your teammate. And Lewis Hamilton started something great. And of course, we'll always remember the moment where he won that championship in dramatic fashion when Timo Glock slowed down on the last lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix years ago. And one of the big things, of course, we encourage everyone in the chat room, share your favorite memory of Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes era. With that said, Isha, let's go to pick a winner. Of course, Formula E, they're racing. That's a new scoreboard, but here's the current scoreboard for 2024, the last race of the year for the scoreboard. And of course, Matthew Bro, he's going to be the champion. Isha, top 10 finish for you this year. Wonderful effort. And of course, I know Mara, we've tried everything we can. Unfortunately, technology is just not working out for us. 13th place. A lot of points scored across the board. Now we're just down to the last one, picking the winner of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Isha, who is your pick for winning this race?
My pick is going to be, even though we know that he often does mess up when he starts from pole, I think that even if he messes up, he'll be able to get back. I'm gonna go with Lando Norris. The McLarens have great pace this weekend. They're the fastest on the track. They've proven that over the course of the 3 free practices and then the quali. I think the only person we could maybe be worried for would be, that could be a potential risk for Lando, could be Oscar Piastri, his own teammate. As you mentioned, your teammate's your biggest opponent. But I'm gonna go with Lando Norris. Hopefully, I'll be able to get some more points from that.
Lando Norris is a great pick, and I gotta be honest, I sort of agree with you that I feel if there's a race where he could lead the first lap from pole, this would be it. That corner coming up after the start, I think could play advantage to him, gets a better start than Piastri. He's going to be there. For pick a winner, I'm going to go with a different driver, a driver that finished on the podium in 2021, that controversial year with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. It's interesting. Since 2021, essentially, Max Verstappen has won this race every time. Before that, Lewis Hamilton. So we're going to have a new winner, which is exciting. You win with Lando Norris. I'm going with Carlos Sainz. Get a win with his last race with Ferrari. He would so love that, and just to end on top before he goes to Williams. Williams, I know they're just going to be excited. Hopefully, one last race weekend without a repair bill from either of the drivers crashing. So overall, I think Carlos Sainz, he's going to get the win and try to bring some positive momentum to that Williams team.
You know what? I'm gonna agree with you. I mean, Lando Norris is still my pick, but I hope I'm wrong. I'll be able to. I'm willing to sacrifice my points so that your pick wins. Just because I think it would be a great way to end Carlos's chapter at Ferrari, especially because we know that the chance of them winning the constructors is very low. This race weekend, I just feel like there should be some positive thing happening for Carlos so that it's like a good send off for him.
A good send off, and thinking about it too, with Charles Leclerc starting farther back, you don't have to worry about let Carlos by. It's just, okay, Carlos up towards the front, give him the preferred strategy for the win. Let's see what happens with McLaren. Their strategy game sometimes is not there, but I think McLaren, they're going to have everything buttoned down. They're going to be hard to beat. I think easily they're going to claim the Constructors' Championship. So we'll see what happens. And of course, Isha, thank you so much for the entire year being on the air with us. And one of the things we're going to try one final time, see if we could get Mara on the air. We thank everyone for tuning in, of course. And let's see what happens. Mara, how are you doing
Hello.
today?
I'm good.
Yay! All right, Mara. Well, we're so excited to have you on the air. We'll get started. We just did our pick a winners, Mara. Of course, you probably saw Isha went with Lando Norris. I went with Carlos Sainz. Who are you going to be going with for pick a winner?
Norris for sure.
Oh, two Lando Norris picks. That's going to be great. Now, one of the things, Mara, I know Isha and I were talking about some of the big storylines, particularly just George Russell, Lewis, not Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and Max Verstappen feud.
Yeah. Well, I think that both of them are wrong because we know Verstappen. He's often above the line in his comments, very aggressive. On track and off track, so I don't want to justify his words towards Russell. But at the same time, I don't understand why Russell wanted to share with the media what happened or a private conversation that he had with Verstappen. So I can see both of them in the wrong.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with them, both of them, of course. Overall, I think it's just going to be one of those deals where it occurs hard racing, hot tempers, and all that. But one of the big things, I will say this, it's going to be a lot of hard racing. Isha, when it comes to, we talked a little bit about the Alpine, that battle for sixth place. I know you mentioned your predictions. When it comes to it, Isha, can you explain to Mara what you're thinking a little bit when it comes to that sixth place and see what Mara's thoughts are?
Yes, sure. So we were talking about this earlier, Mara, and Alpine's in sixth place right now. They have 59 points, but right behind them is Haas with 54 points. And Alpine's just let go of Esteban Ocon, so they have Jack Doohan replacing him instead. And so me and Joe were talking about whether we think Alpine will be able to finish sixth place in the constructor standings. And I don't think that's going to be possible because Alpine only has Pierre Gasly, who will be able to potentially score some points, whereas Haas has two drivers that may be able to score points. So I think that Haas will be able to finish in sixth place, but we would like to know what are your thoughts?
Well, no, I think that Alpine can finish in the sixth position of the championship. Well, what you're saying is true. I mean, they only have Gasly that can score points for them, but still, do we really think that Magnussen can score points starting 15 and having Leclerc and Hamilton behind him? Not really sure. So they are both racing with only one driver. And I think Alpine has proven more during the last races rather than Haas, although Haas is very fast in qualifying.
Gonna be very exciting to see now for Buffy. I gotta ask, we briefly talked in the lightning round about Franco Colapinto. Will he crash out again or finish into points? Of course, he's gonna be potentially out of the seat of Formula One. We don't know where he'll go. And of course, Carlos Sainz will be in that seat with Alex Albon, Isha Mara, Williams. 2025, Carlos Sainz. Do you believe Carl will be able to bring good enough information from the Ferrari team to help that team out to make steps forward?
Yes, I think it is possible. I think Carlos is going to be bringing not only some really important experience with him, but also information that I think will be able to help Williams. Um, I I'm not sure if it will be able to help them that much because, a lot of it does matter on the way they make their car, and the Williams hasn't been a great car in a long time. But I think that with Carlos's experience and the information that he does have, I think that it will definitely be a benefit to Williams and to the driver partnership between Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz.
Yes, for sure, Carlos Sainz can help them with a lot of information, a lot of experience, but what they are missing in Williams are money. So unless he can bring also a really good sponsor and help them to develop the car with some fundings, the journey will be longer. So yeah, for sure he will be an important driver with a lot of good experience and information, but that's not enough to make them grow.
All right, Mara, now we have one last question to ask you. So this is the last race Kevin Magnussen will be racing with Haas. Do you think it is a bad move by the team to replace Kevin Magnussen with Esteban Ocon for the next season?
No, I don't think it's a bad move, honestly. Ocon has been in Alpine for a long time. The relationship with Gasly was not that good on a personal level, as far we understood. So I think that also promoting a young driver like Duan, it's a good choice for Alpine. They need to move away from this situation and in the middle of the championship. So I think that they can grow next year with Gasly, which is a very constant driver, and with a young, good driver like Duan.
Gonna be really interesting to see how everything plays out. And of course, Formula One, it's gonna be tomorrow. When it comes to pick a winner, Mara and Isha have gone with Lando Norris. I went with Carlos Sainz. We want to give a big thank you to our Patreon investors. Calling the show, Mark, Robin, David, Match for investing into Grid Network each and every month. We appreciate everything from 2024 being on the air. And before we go off the air, Mara, one final question for you. Of course, I asked Isha about Lewis Hamilton. His last race was Mercedes Power. Next year, he's going to Ferrari. We know you're over in Italy. A lot of people are probably very excited to see this move happen. But when it comes to Lewis Hamilton's career with Mercedes Power again, so whether it was McLaren or the team Mercedes, what's one memory that stands out?
I would say only one, because three comes to my mind, actually. So I would say the 2018 championship, the fighting with Vettel, that was pretty tense. 19, where he completely dominated the championship, and how he managed the 2021 end race in Abu Dhabi. These are the three I have.
Three good memories. Well, Abu Dhabi's not exactly good, but memories that I think definitely helped the sport in many ways. And Lewis Hamilton been huge in pushing the sport forward. And of course, once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, and be sure to follow all three of us on social media as well. Big thank you for Mara for joining us, especially with all the technology gremlins. Isha from Racing with Isha. Follow her for content throughout 2024, 2025, and right here on the Grid Network. I'm Joe San Diego. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time and enjoy the races.